Here's the economic update for May 17th, 2025. So earlier in the month, job openings per unemployed person has been falling. It's now about, one job available for every one person that doesn't have a job. Always remember there's a mismatch of skills as well as locations. So you want a little bit more than one to really be able to find a job pretty easily. On May 2nd, our unemployment numbers came in at 4.2%. We've been between 4 and 4.2 since May of 2024. It's not really changing that much. We were at about 3.4, 3.5% a year or two earlier, but it's not a huge change. And historically, it's still very low. We're at 7.2 million people that are currently unemployed looking for jobs. The US effectively added 177,000 jobs in the prior month. The concerning bit here is that if someone is unemployed, it's difficult to go find a job. So for those people that are 27 weeks unemployed or 6 months unemployed or longer, this number keeps growing at 179,000 people. So that's at 1.7 million now. So that kind of goes back to there's not a lot of job openings, and if you have a mismatch of skills, you may not be able to get one of those jobs. On May 7th, the Fed Open Market Committee held interest rates at 4.25% and 4.5%. The reasons they cited, basically there's an increased risk of higher unemployment. It's not that we have high unemployment, it's that the risk of getting higher unemployment in the near future is going up. But at the same time, the risk of higher inflation is also going up. Generally speaking, if you have high inflation, the Fed would just increase interest rates so that people spend less money. And then if you spend less money, basically the price of goods still increases over time. It's just they increase at a slower rate. If you have high unemployment, you would generally lower interest rates, and that would get people to spend more money, buy more things, which then factories hire more people, more services to sell more items to people. But when both of these are going up, basically you could have stagnant inflation. So that's a tough place to be in. May 13th, inflation CPI. So core means we exclude gas, fuel, energy, and food. We're at 2.8%. This was favored in terms of what we would go off of, but now since that number is higher, now we talk about CPI, which was at 2.3%. So the core has basically not gone up or down, stayed the same, and CPI has come down by 0.1%. So it's still headed in the right direction, but it's slowing. Something that could actually cause inflation to go higher. On April 2nd, we had basically tariffs announced for the world, and we were supposed to go to a higher level of tariffs on April 9th. That didn't happen because basically markets, and more importantly, the bond market started to collapse. And because of the bond market, that's why we didn't continue with that path and then put a 90-day pause on that. So right now, the US and the world, the US has about a 10% tariff on pretty much everywhere, and 25% on steel, aluminum, and cars. The higher rates have been paused for 90 days to try to force some negotiations and some deals. I think this whole thing was mostly around how can we, as the US, basically force other people to negotiate trade deals, because other countries have tariffs on the US and tariffs on our goods. And then there's also value-added tax in the rest of the world, but not in the US. And it has some unfair advantages for different countries. So that's why they were put in place. And I think hopefully it's just a negotiating tactic and these rates don't go even higher. I think also by threatening much higher rates, the market was panicked about the high rates. And then when we went back to 10% on most of the world, people were like, oh, it's only 10%. But people forgot that it was 0% just a couple of days before. On May 12th, the US and China basically agreed to put tariffs on a pause for 90 days. So the US brought the tariffs on Chinese goods from 145% down to 30%. China has a 10% tariff on the United States. The other bit of good news, U.S. earnings have gone up in first quarter of 2025, so stocks are climbing on those first quarter earnings and basically the tariff pause. We are now, if you look at the S&P 500, we're now above the start of 2025 in terms of value. So it's about 1.6% or so higher than the start of the year. Even though we took a 20+% drop in stocks, it's recovered fairly quick as soon as we had that good news as well as the tariff pause. We still have 10% to 30% tariffs on most goods that are coming into the United States. So that's going to cause some amount of inflation over the next several months to year. On May 15th, companies have announced that they're increasing prices due to tariffs. Some of these are Walmart, Nintendo, Best Buy, AutoZone, Target, just to name a few. May 5th, student loans, any of those that were in default, are now starting repayment. There are 5 million people currently in default. There are 4 million additional people that are very close to those defaults. They haven't paid their bills for a period of time, but they're not as bad as being in default. So that's up to 9 million people that will be affected by that, which means they can't spend as much money into the economy or buy things. Remember, the economy is not the stock market. And an example of this would be, take a company, for example, and they are not increasing how much money they're making in terms of revenue. So in order to show they have the same amount of profit or more profit each year, what they may have to do is they would lay off employees in order to cut costs. So now you have the economy being affected by many people being laid off, people lose their jobs. But at the same time, the stock market could actually go up because the stock market is based on profit. So if that company is showing a much bigger profit margin because they don't have as many people to pay, maybe they had a boost in, let's say, productivity, they have some machines that have replaced jobs, basically that company's stock could still go up even though thousands of people could be losing their jobs. So I know a lot of people will make comments that, oh, the stock market's doing great, so the economy is doing great. The two are not the same. Many times they'll be aligned to some degree, maybe offset by 6 months or so, but that's what I mean by the economy is not the same as the stock market. Now, following that, we're going to say May 5th, recession odds by the Treasury spread over the next 12 months. It went from about 60% down to about 30%. That's good news. If you look at the Treasury, the 10 and the 2-year, it uninverted just prior to most recessions and again in 2024. So if you look in 1990, 2001, 2007, 2019, and right now 2024, all of these were just before, a major downturn in the economy, and basically we went into a recession. April 30th, we got our first GDP of the year. So real GDP for first quarter of 2025, we're at minus 0.3%. We had one negative quarter of GDP. If you have two, it's a technical recession. The definition has been changed here and there. Now it includes a certain amount of unemployment, but traditionally it was 2 negative quarters of GDP. How do you calculate GDP? Well, it's basically all the consumer spending, all the investments, government spending, your exports minus your imports. Well, what happened in first quarter of 2025? Well, everybody was starting to worry about these tariffs. So what I think happened is you have a bunch of companies that are buying things in, let's say, March before they take effect. I know Apple and other companies have flown in hundreds of tons of iPhones and other products to avoid high tariffs. So that would be a negative, which would make GDP potentially negative. The other thing that happened was government spending actually went down. This is mostly around when the government's supposed to spend money or pay somebody, they're supposed to have a identification number. And historically, people just got paid whether they had that number or they didn't. Effective now is if you don't have the proper documentation, that money doesn't go out. So about 5% of everything that was supposed to be spent wasn't spent. So that's effectively less government spending and more imports. That's going to give you the negative GDP. I don't think we're going to have as many imports in the second quarter. So I don't know if we'll actually have a second negative quarter in the second quarter of 2025. My expectation is probably third and fourth quarter. On May 16th, we had inflation expectation of consumers. Basically 1 year from now, people are expecting inflation to be closer to 7.3%. A lot of the economy is based on how people feel because your spending is based mostly on emotion. So if you think times will be good, you spend a lot more money. If you think times are bad, people stop spending money. And then that basically causes things to be bad when nobody spends money. So same idea. The US credit has actually been downgraded on May 16th. We went from AAA rating to AA rating based on the increasing national debt, our growing deficits, and things along those lines. So that's from Moody's. Also on May 16th, we had consumer sentiment. It is now the second lowest in history. And I know a lot of this can be scary, so just to give you some data. Recessions, on average, they're about 10 months. They're not for years and years. Typically, the unemployment rate during a recession averages about 8%. Every time except for the Great Depression, we've been at 6 to 15% unemployment. During the Great Depression, it went up to 25%. Normally, if you average 8% unemployment, you're looking at 92% of people are employed. It's not everybody is unemployed. It does hurt if you're the one that lost your job, but overall, many people still stay employed. Thinking about this 10 months and knowing that people are being unemployed for 6 months or longer, how can you use that information? Well, one, if you do not have an emergency fund, start building an emergency fund, get that to about 6 months. 6 months usually gets people through, and they'll have some level of unemployment insurance in most cases, so that helps them get through as well. Any money I need in the next 5 years or less, I'm having in high yield savings, CDs, things along those lines. Anything that's like 5, 10 plus years out, I'm putting in as stocks and other equities. So what am I doing? I'm still using dollar cost averaging. Every time I get paid, I put 15+% away of my income into basically a tax advantage account, like retirement account or something along those lines, like a 401k, a Roth IRA, that sort of thing. And I use dollar cost averaging, whether it's going up, it's going down. I continue to invest because I'm in this for the long run. Put about 80% of that into the S&P 500, about 10% into an international fund, and I'm starting to buy bonds again. So that's where I'm at, and it doesn't really deviate. Now, I might take 1% and play around with it, but statistically speaking, 90% of actively traded funds fail to outperform the S&P 500. So if even the professional people that do this every single day, they can't beat the S&P 500, I might as well not even try and just go with the S&P 500. If you looked historically, Warren Buffett and other people have said the same thing. If people just stick with the S&P 500, the top 500 US companies, and I have some international in there, international might outperform some of the S&P 500 just because of these tariffs. These are the top companies outside the United States, all around the world. So that's why I have those two. And I'm starting to buy some bonds again, just because they're fairly high in terms of interest. The other thing people are not aware of is in the United States, they have something called the WARN Act. If where you're working has more than 100 employees or they're laying off 100 plus employees, they're required by law to give 60 days notice to the government. So if you go on to the WARN website of whatever state you're in, you can look up your company and see if they're laying people off, and you'll actually get 1 to sometimes 6 months of heads up that your job may be at risk. Also, check where the company is headquartered in the U.S., and they might list it in that state rather than the state you're working in. But either way, check those for the business that you're working in. And if you see layoffs in your specific business, I would get your resume together and start putting out feelers and protect yourself that way. All right, well, thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I cover a lot of topics such as how to make more money, how to invest, how to save, how to start businesses. So thank you for watching and have a great day.